Oh,
You have to go back a long way.
I mean, I'm watching the Kentucky-North Carolina game, at least the last 46 seconds of it, while we're doing the podcast. Hey! Podcast is going.
Hey, we're live now.
All right.
Hello, and welcome to episode 37 of the Pixel-Related Podcast. It is March 26th. It is a little after 4 p.m. in the Pacific. As always, I'm your host, Kyle, and we got a great episode for you. I got Addam joining me today.
There's so much shit that we're going to be talking about. It's going to make you guys go fucking crazy. It's nuts. It's great.
Wow.
Let's do this thing. Let's go.
All over the place.
I'm pumped.
And then we also have a surprise guest host with us today. And that's Gus.
How's it going, people? I do like that you refer to me as a guest now. Since I'm
it's all in jest.
That's
all in jest.
It
has been a couple. It's been like 3 episodes since we think we've had you on here. It's just scheduling's tough. Life is full of stuff, and sometimes we just can't make all 3 of us on here. And that's just what happens.
Now, unfortunately, I work all of the weekends now too, so that's kind of.
Yeah, that weekend tends to be like the prime time.
Yeah, it's all good. Don't worry, people. I'm back.
Hey, we got him here. So we got some good stuff to talk about. We got some new games have come out, and we've had more time to dive into the Nintendo Switch and Zelda Breath of the Wild. So I think we're going to start off kind of with that, especially because Gus also has been playing Breath of the Wild, but not on the Nintendo Switch. He hasn't played a lot of it, but Gus, I want to hear what you think about your first little bit with Zelda.
So I picked up Zelda on the Wii U, mostly because I love Zelda, but I wasn't ready to pay $350, I guess, to play it. So I was perfectly content with dusting off the Wii U, and like Kyle said, I haven't really played much, but what I've played, I'm enjoying it. I'm liking it. As far as like performance goes, I was talking with you guys a little bit when I was playing it, and it seems like it runs pretty much the same on both systems.
There are videos out there that are like saying like it's basically comparable. So
yeah,
when I heard you saying you had no issues with it, I was like, oh, fucking great, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think the only main difference is it's 720p. And I guess the Switch version is 900p, so not really that big of a deal as far as that
goes. If you're playing TV mode, it is.
Yeah, it's 720p on the portable mode. So.
Okay, so then that's pretty much the same thing, anyways. I'm liking how they changed up the formula. I'm intrigued. The thing that really kind of bothered me about it was they took off the the tablet view. Pretty much there's nothing on the tablet. All it says is you can tap it if you want the game to come down to the tablet, or you can tap it again to put it to the TV, which was kind of the whole reasoning behind the whole, the Wii U was always based about the tablet being like this thing that made it different, and then they strip it out because they don't want to.
It always seemed like the game was originally, and even like having now finished it, like it totally seems like all of the inventory management stuff was specifically designed around that. So it's super weird that they I kind of get that they didn't want to fracture the fan base in that regard. But at the same point, it doesn't make sense to just remove that shit entirely. It's so weird.
The last thing they want, though, is to launch this brand new console and have anyone out there going, yeah, the Wii U is the better version of the game.
Exactly.
But that requires people to have Wii U's, and that's just not a thing. That's not a thing that happens.
I don't know. Supposedly, all these people were going to buy used Wii U so they could play Zelda on the cheap because they couldn't get Switches and stuff. So that's what I heard.
Well, it's not even that. Like, if you're do I want to even buy a Switch? Like, if I was going to buy a Switch just to play Zelda, and Breath of the Wild is better on the Wii U, like, oh, well, I'm definitely not going to buy a Switch. Like, even if I don't have a Wii U, like, why would I buy a Switch then? Like, I should just, like I was saying, go try to find a cheap, like, used Wii U and play it on there or something like that. So.
Yeah, so that part was disappointing because I felt like I kind of got, not cheated, but I don't know. I feel like it could have been like the better version, but they kind of stripped it out because they wanted to sell Switches, which is...
Well, yeah, I mean, the game, like, Link literally has a tablet. Like, it is literally what it's supposed to be. He takes a tablet and does NFC to all the different little sites around Hyrule. Yeah, it was very clearly that's how it was supposed to be designed, but, you know.
I mean, but besides that, I mean, I think the game looks absolutely gorgeous. Like, I think they took Wind Waker and they paired it with the original Legend of Zelda design, and they kind of made a nice little baby there, and it looks beautiful as far as the open world and all that stuff goes. But yeah, I haven't really delved that much into it because I got sidetracked with Mass Effect, but that's another story.
Yeah, we'll get to Mass Effect.
We will get to that.
Yeah, cool. So I mean, so on the under end of the spectrum, Adam and I both have completed.
Yeah.
Well, okay, completed is not the right word. We both beat Ganon.
We beat Ganon. Yeah,
we beat Ganon
Nice.
because
we got the final mission prompt was done.
A thing popped up on my screen that said "Beat Ganon complete," and I did it. But yeah, I beat that. I beat the game on like Thursday night, Friday morning, something like that. And I've still probably played another 5 or 6 hours more over the weekend. Just because you don't like beating that game or finishing the campaign or whatever you want to say.
It's such a minimal
left in that game.
Yeah. So I want to talk about how I finished the game because I stumbled into it. I didn't know that I was going to fight Ganon when I did. So there are these like memories that are scattered all over the world. Like you go there and it's like, hey, this activates this little cutscene and you see the stuff from like 100 years ago, and it's really interesting, and it's a thing that like I was compelled enough to keep going at. And they give you these little photo previews of like where these are all at, and one of them is like right in Hyrule Castle. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna save that one for last because that one is gonna be a pain in the ass because Hyrule Castle is like completely surrounded by like the toughest enemies. Like there's Lionels throughout the entire thing. It's kind of crazy to actually get into there, and I kind of just cheesed my way in. This is after I'd beat like the 4 bosses, and like I got in there and I hit this point and it's like, okay, this looks like, I don't know, like maybe this is Princess Zelda's room or maybe this is going to lead to it. And it's like, oh no, this is the final fight. You're doing this right now. And Jesus Christ, like it's a thing that I still can't get over, the fact that I made it through all of Hyrule Castle, stumbled really through Hyrule Castle, and just kind of ended up at the end game. It's so crazy that you can just do that. And we were talking a little bit about like the speed run community of like they're like at sub-hour on that game.
I think they're at like 45 minutes now, I think is what it's at.
Yeah.
45 minutes.
Which is so crazy when you consider like if most people are spending probably 40, 50, 60 hours with this kind of game. They're at like, no, we can do this in under an hour. We can get it real simple, real easy. Yeah. So that experience of just like falling into this place, like I didn't have the whole trek through Hyrule Castle and fight at all of these gates and everything that like other people did. I just had like, I kind of just used an ice block over here and used one of the abilities that I got, and that's it. That's how I got to the end game. I really dug the last fight. I really dug the last 2 fights of that game. Like they were really cool in very different ways each. The first look, I know this is going to be a spoiler. There are multiple parts to a Ganon fight. I know it's a shock.
What?
Right.
Shocking.
But like by the time that I had finished through that that first part is so intense and so like kind of like as I got through it the first time and I died, it's like, okay, I think I can do this, but I'm gonna have to be super careful with it. Yeah, it's a crazy experience, I think, of finishing that game, and I am totally going to go back to it and get a lot more stuff done because there's so many like side quests I just never touched because of how I did this. But unfortunately, there are like a million other games right now that are all trying to get my attention. And
so when we talked about Zelda and the Switch, I hadn't even finished the first dungeon last time we talked about this. Naturally, at this point,
first dungeon is a relative term. Also, like what dungeon
that I ran into, I hadn't completed any of the dungeons. So I did all the dungeons. I beat again or whatever. I do have to say that I don't like any of the dungeons in the game really all that much. I don't.
Oh my god, those dungeons are incredible. Oh my god, I love them.
They were definitely. I feel like they were a letdown for me compared to Zelda dungeons of the past. Like I don't think they all kind of use a similar mechanic to beat them. I mean, we talked about the whole thing. You have to go around and do the switches, and there's also a thing where you have to move the animal in some way to then help you get to that certain place or something like that. And I just didn't. And it was cool. But I feel like the stuff that like I've done shrines that feel way more creative and like much more of a puzzle and much more interesting than the stuff I've seen than any of the dungeons. And that's really where this game is at for me. Like the shrines is all where that game is, the open world and stuff like that. Like the dungeons were like a means to an end. Like I thought the kind of like the action sequences leading up to the dungeons were awesome. Like they were super cool. But like you're inside the dungeon, you're gonna go do all these puzzles or whatever, and then get to the boss. I thought they were just okay. Like I was disappointed by them because that's always my favorite part of Zelda games.
I love those dungeons. I thought the way they absolutely have like a very similar formula of like go here, activate the map, go hit these switches, then fight the boss. But I really loved that they were short, which is really weird with the Zelda games.
That's part of my disappointment as well. Is that they were quite
but
short.
I also the thing that I like about that is that those shrines are very much filling that gap. Like you think about all the time that you would be spending in dungeons in Zelda, in other Zelda games, it's basically the time you're putting into those shrines. Like those shrines are basically just puzzle rooms from the dungeons that are kind of just allow you to hit them in any order, and you can do them. Like you can always finish them. You can always complete them no matter what. I've kind of grown a little bit tired of the whole spend 2-3 hours in this dungeon and just take a really long time. And also I don't like the way that the bosses like have worked. And sort of recently, like it's kind of become really tired for me of like use the boomerang 3 times and then slash boomerang. Like, they kind of just all were very formulaic. And I think that by changing the way that you deal with those, so that rather than you doing that, the bosses, like they all have like certain weaknesses that you can find, but that's not the point of it. Like it's very
all kind of like just shoot them in the face with the arrow and then they go down, except for the camel one, I think was the hardest one.
Camel.
Yeah, I don't know. It just like I remember just so many like epic, like cool boss fights. Yeah, even if it's like, hey, so how are we going to use this thing that you just got in this? Like, how are you going to use the spinning top? Like, that's like the coolest thing from like Twilight Princess, right? Or it's like, are you going to like jump and like fight this giant dragon on top of this tower? Like, they were always really cool boss fights, and I feel like the boss designs were kind of bland, and you kind of fought them all the same way.
You fought them all the same way. Like I varied up everything. Like they all have very specific like the Zora one. Like when you kind of just find out that if you use the ice blocks, you can actually block his attacks. And it kind of puts him into a stun lock, and then you can hit him. And then you have to also figure out how to manage that with like at the same point dealing with the larger attacks that he had. Like I love that. I love that it was you always had the ability to find these other ways to do these fights. Like you could have just gone and been like, yeah, here, okay, I've got bomb arrows. Like I had one where it's like, I am sick of doing this one at this point because I've gotten my ass handed to me a bunch of times. Okay, I'll use bomb arrows. But for me, I was trying to figure out each time, like, okay, what is like, are there any tricks here? What are these specific moves that I've got? Like, I've got these different weapons. What can I do with those weapons to sort of change up this strategy to catch these things off guard? And I loved it. Like now that all also I would say falls apart when you get the Master Sword, because then they have a very specific weakness at that point, and that is that sword.
I didn't get the Master Sword until after I had beaten all the Divine Beasts, so I never really had to worry about it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just put a lot of points. I put a lot of points into stamina.
Yeah.
Like right away.
What you should do. Just load up on stamina.
Yeah, like I almost
you want to load up on
ranges.
stamina, certainly. Yeah, you want to load up on stamina at the start of the game for sure. Like if you put like a lot into your health at the start of it, it's like no, you're gonna have a really, really bad time with this.
I feel like this game did what I want Tomb Raider to do, where they still have the little puzzle rooms, so they have the little shrines, but then they have larger areas that will take you like an hour. I feel
well,
like
so that's the thing. That's the cool thing about the shrines. That's what I was saying. Like, I feel like the dungeons were a disappointment because of how good some of those shrines are. Now, some of the shrines are very straightforward and they're easy to beat, but I've had shrines that have taken me like a half an hour, 45 minutes, and are like complex, like multi-layered, like, all right, you do this puzzle, now you move to the next room and you have to do this more complicated version of the puzzle, and then it's like, then do you want that treasure chest? If you can do that treasure chest, you got to do an even more complicated puzzle to get that treasure chest. And of course, you always want to get the treasure chest. Who wouldn't want to get the treasure chest? So that's
I did until I realized how little, like, often there was in those treasure chests. Like, they were often not great weapons.
But still, treasure chest though. But you know, it's a treasure chest.
The original loot box.
How do you say no to a treasure chest? So anyways, so that's the game for me. That's why even after having quote unquote beat the game, I'm still having a ton of fun with the game, because there are so many secrets and so many little things in that game. Just kind of running around and exploring the world is still really rewarding. Like I'd found a village last night that I'd never found before. Like, I don't know how I didn't see it. I feel like I had heard someone mention it at some point, but I found this little fishing village and I was like, oh, cool, there's a fishing village here. And then they sent me off to go to this ruins where I unlocked a shrine, and that shrine was cool. And like, there's just always just little things like that. And then I was talking to like Robbie the other day, and he was talking about how he got this climbing gear. And I was like, man, I have not seen any climbing gear. Like how,
oh my God, the climbing gear is great.
That's what he said. He said,
the climbing gear is great.
Game. And I'm like, I haven't seen any of the pieces of climbing gear. Sheesh. So it's like, there's still so much to do. Like, I'm not going to go crazy. Like, there's 900 Korok seeds in that game. And I think I have around 70. So that's never going to happen. But I will definitely try to get all the shrines and maybe try to get all the equipment and like level up the equipment. I just found the 4th Great Fairy. And oh my God, she needs a lot of money. It's like that world, like the world they crafted, and how big and open it is, but then how like little bits are so unique and so different. Even if it's hey, like this rock is out of place, I should probably pick it up. Oh, hey, there's a Korok under here. Like stuff like that is just scattered all throughout the game, in addition to enemy camps and shrines and like just little puzzles to solve to get Koroks. Like, there's so much stuff in the game. It's just an amazing world that they've created. But I would say I'd like as like the main line, like I'm just gonna go do like single player, Zelda, do the dungeons, beat Ganon. Like the Ganon fight is great. I agree with you 100%. But the dungeons were definitely a little bit of a letdown for me, comparing them personally to the dungeons.
So is it only the dungeons that's a letdown to you, or do you think they tried like changing up the formula like too much for you?
No, I mean, like I miss some of the more classic Zelda stuff. Like, yeah, like I never got bored of the like going into a dungeon, you get the hook shot, and now because you have the hook shot, you can do all these other things in this dungeon to go finish up the dungeon and do that stuff. Like that stuff, that stuff never bothered me. So like I miss kind of that type of thing, like the getting equipment and kind of like adding more stuff to your repertoire over the course of the game, like them having them give you all the stuff right up front. It has to be done in this game because, like you were saying, Adam, they have to give you all the tools so that whatever you run into, you'll be able to beat it. I don't think I would want this to be like a Metroidvania game where you run into 15 shrines that you can't complete because you haven't unlocked stasis yet, because you haven't gone to the, to the volcano dungeon yet. Like that would be awful. Like that would make this game terrible. So like I get why they didn't do it, and it makes sense. But it was a little disappointing. And they put some of that stuff into the equipment that you get. Like you get like specifically there's Zelda stuff, or the Zora stuff that helps you like swim up waterfalls and stuff like that. Like I wish there was a little bit more stuff like that isn't like, that's not necessarily like required to beat it, but makes stuff easier. I mean, I guess that's kind of the like the powers you get do that, but
I think the thing though that I would say with that is you have to look, that stuff is there. Like there is a lot of that stuff that is like, hey, this bit of armor will, like there's like a mask salesman who, like, if you buy these masks from him, you will be invisible to certain enemy types, or the different like weapons that you get after dungeons. Like there is all of that sort of shit, but it's also done in a way that it's not like, hey, I beat this dungeon, I'm doing it. It's like, hey, I explored this area, I found it. So like you don't get that. The reward is not necessarily from doing the dungeon, it's from like exploring the world. And I appreciate that because like the dungeons are super short. And I think that the real reward with that game is exploring and seeing like all of the shit that like my fiance's playing through it now, and like every time like she's talking about it, I'm like, I never saw that. Like I never saw that at all whatsoever. Like you, so you like, the there's that helmet that you have to find for the desert one. Like you can totally get that. Like that's an obtainable item within the game. She's kind of freaking out because she just got it here, but like there's all of that kind of shit that you can just, if you're exploring the world, it's all there. And I like that. Like I like that model. And that is one of the things that I like that they changed with it. I think it's going to be a thing that I think is going to divide people. Like I think like I totally understand your points on it. Like you were not necessarily as tired with that stuff as I was, or maybe you weren't even at all. But like, like as somebody who is a lifelong player of these sorts of games, I guess to me, it's been getting old. And I mean, whatever. We had this discussion last time, but yeah, I love that they changed this. I love that they took like a very real risk with this game.
Yeah. One thing I do like that they changed was they don't hold your hand like at all in this game. From what I've played,
no, at all.
No, almost sometimes to its detriment.
Yeah, they went to the other extreme. Because I remember playing Skyward Sword and having my hand held for like the first 6 hours, and I just gave up on that game because I was so bored. So I appreciate that, but yeah, it seems very very figure it out, boy. Just do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is almost to the point though where it, at some times, like it feels like you're not playing Zelda anymore, which is,
Yeah.
I suppose, to its
Totally,
benefit.
totally.
I'm not complaining. It actually reminded me a lot of Black Flag, where it's like, it's an amazing pirate game. How much of it is an Assassin's Creed game? Not necessarily a lot. And that's kind of what I'm feeling from Zelda. Like they made perhaps the most interesting open world in any game ever. And then it's just kind of like light Zelda stuff, you know? Like same enemies and there's still Gorons and stuff like that, and Zelda and Ganon and all that. But that's not what you're coming to this game for, and that is a blast. Like, it's still my favorite thing to do in that game is just to run around and explore sometimes with a purpose, sometimes without any purpose at all. You were actually kind of talking about, Adam, like the side quests. Like, I have a whole, like, 2 pages of side quests, and I haven't done any of them because I don't care. Like, I don't need this game. This game is rewarding enough to just wander that I don't need to even be directed to complete these side quests to find cool stuff. Like, I am finding the cool stuff just on my own, just by wandering and exploring the world. And that says a lot for any game to, like, they have these specific directed things, and I'll go back and I'll check them out and I'll do those things. But, like, I'm finding them, that a lot of that stuff irregardless. Like, I ran into a lady who was like, hey, have you seen there's these, like, weird statues and you're supposed to do, like, solve this big puzzle? And I was like, oh, yeah, I did that a long time ago. Like, oh, it's cool that the side quest attracted me to do it. But it's like, yeah, I already did that, like, 20 hours ago. It's all good. Like, just talk to her again. And she's like, oh, I guess it's been someone's did it. There's a shrine there now. And I was like, yep, that's right. I did it. It's all good.
Do you
So it's a really good game. Is it a Zelda game? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, technically, sure, but less of a Zelda game than I expected, which is not necessarily a bad thing.
Are you guys I guess, what's the word? Like, are you guys happy that you bought a Switch to play this game, or now that you've played it, you feel maybe you should just pick it up on the Wii U, or does it justify your purchase a little bit more of the system?
So that's the question, right? Like, I'm totally fine with buying a Switch. Like, I love the portability of it. Like, I think, like, so one thing we didn't have on the list, but I played Splatoon, the Splatoon 2 test fire thing they did this weekend. Like, I love the portability of that thing. I love that I can just, like, in May, I will just be able to play Mario Kart just portably. I love that. So I didn't necessarily need a ton of justification. I was going to probably buy this thing no matter what. I know that for a lot of people, though, that's not enough. I think there are going to be a lot of people who maybe bought this thing and they're going to finish it up and they're going to be like, okay, what now? Like, well, Mario comes out in December.
Yeah.
So what the fuck am I going to do with it until then?
Yeah.
I think
if
Nintendo
you're not ready to double dip on Mario Kart, which I probably will because my kids like Mario Kart and I like Mario Kart fine.
Yeah.
Like there's not a whole lot coming out until summer, quote unquote, for Splatoon 2. Like, that's it's gonna be rough.
I mean, there are, I don't think that, like, necessarily all indie games are gonna, like, save this thing, but I think there's an okay catalog at this point. Like, you've got Fast RMX, which is pretty good. You've got Shovel Knight, the whole complete thing, which, while it's like sales thing is a total mess, is still pretty good. You've got you've got a lot of games that are like, yeah, it's all right. Like, it's totally fine. I've heard mixed things about that Blaster Master remake or thing that I don't know if it's a remake or what
there's
the
a bunch
hell
of
it is.
random stuff on that store now.
A lot of Neo Geo stuff I noticed, which is such an oddly specific thing. But like I think like if you are willing to dip into that territory, like look, I don't think that like independent games are going to save that thing, but I think right now, at least for the moment, there's enough interest in buying it that they can hold off a little bit. Like there was the thing going on Twitter where somebody saw somebody playing their Switch basically at like a coffee shop and offered to buy the thing for $400 because they couldn't find it anywhere. Like it keeps selling out. So I think like long term, obviously they need to get a bigger catalog. It was the same problem they had with the Wii U. In the meantime, I think if they can keep holding like decent independent or smaller titles, I think it'll be fine. But yeah, like to the question of like, did I need a justification? I was probably gonna buy this thing no matter what, and I think a lot of the early adopters probably would have as well.
Yeah,
that's not to say that all of them would have, but early adopters by their nature, especially with like Nintendo stuff, where Nintendo stuff is always so weird with it being sold out for a really long time or having sporadic amounts that come in every so often. I think they were always going to buy it. So I think like holding off and then them having a few games, smaller games coming out during the summer, and then obviously Mario in whenever it comes out in fall. I think they'll be okay. I think it'll keep selling decently.
So I think the actual thing itself, like the actual Switch, is really cool. Like I love part of the reason that I kept playing a whole bunch of Zelda over the weekend is that I was out of town this weekend, and so I brought my Switch with me, and I brought the USB-C charger, and I just like last night I just sat there and played Zelda for like 3 hours in bed, and I was like, this is awesome. Like I am playing full-on Zelda with great controls, and like I can't do that with like Xbox or my PC stuff or whatever. Like that's just not a thing. And like the Vita, like I loved the idea of the Vita, but I never liked the physical buttons and sticks. It's not the buttons, the sticks. Like the sticks just weren't good enough to play a lot of the games that I wanted to play. Where it's the same controls no matter how you're using them, because it's the same little Joy-Con things.
Yeah.
So like I think the design of the Switch is definitely made it work. Like I wish there were other like. It would have been cool if Mass Effect Andromeda was on this thing, and I could have brought Mass Effect Andromeda and played it with me over this weekend. Like that would have been cool to like play this in this little portable mode. Like I feel like if there are comparable things, I might look at buying things for the Switch versus potentially other places just because of that portability, because that is just a really cool thing.
Wow.
There's really not much out for it. Like Zelda's great. 1-2 Switch is a kind of a dumb little party game that I have fun playing with my kids, and I showed my nieces it yesterday, and we had all fun playing all the little party games and stuff like that. And then the only other thing I have for it is Snipper Clips, and Snipper Clips is fantastic, but Snipper Clips is way too short. Like when it feels like you're like getting into like, yeah, now we're getting it, and then it was over. And
so while we're on that topic, so this is just a total aside. We've been playing it really like very sporadically, just between like everything that like I'm working on for reviews and she's playing Zelda, and like how many levels are there in that game?
30. There are 30.
30.
There are
so I
three
just hit the
worlds,
third,
and then it's over.
Okay, so we just hit the third world, so we finished that and it's done.
Yeah, I mean, there's like some party stuff and there's some blitz stuff. Like,
yeah, we played the whole like basketball, like that stuff was fun. Like I had a really good time with that, but
yeah,
goddamn, 30 levels.
Yeah, like when we were talking about it, like I was expecting like another 20 levels. So you know how that game is. The game is designed to like you go through, you do these like simple puzzle ones, and then there is like a quote unquote boss level where you're doing a specific thing, and usually you have to do like 3 variations of it, with the third one being the hardest. So the third world one is really cool. Like you're doing some like these really interesting things with like gravity and like trying to block these things out from this like goo touching it, and it was super cool. And then we beat it, and then like it's just started the credits, and it's like, oh, like we were having so much fun. Like my wife was like dying from laughter over some of the dumb stuff that was happening in that game. And we're having so much fun. And then it was just like, oh, I guess that's it. And it's not the type of game that you can kind of like go back and play again because it's all puzzles. So it's like once you figured out the puzzle, like
that's it. Yeah.
That's kind of it. So like unless like I'm going to show it to other people and have them play around with it or whatever, like I don't really ever gonna go back to snipper clips. And so that was super disappointing. Like it was a great experience while I was having it. It was over really quickly. Like I think we pounded through it in probably 2 nights. Like so maybe like 4 hours overall, maybe 5 hours. Like that's fine. I mean, that's decent for a $20 game, but like I definitely was left wanting more. Which shows how good that game is, like how much I was enjoying it. But
right. Yeah, I mean we've just been playing it like I don't know, like half an hour or so, maybe like every weekend or you know, maybe less than that. But man, that kind of sucks. So that is a really good game. But I would say like probably aside from Zelda, like probably their best original launch game. Like, you know, Shovel Knight is great, but it's been everywhere at this point.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like Shovel Knight and Binding of Isaac. Like, there's great stuff on there that have all been places, every other place, basically.
By the way, want to add Binding of Isaac? Really good on the Switch. Should really get it.
Shocking. and that's a great way to play that game, I'm sure, because it's like you could just take it out and just play it portably or like bring it with you. Like it's a great system for stuff like that. Like the actual design and the actual feel of it is great. I will say that after playing a whole ton of Zelda, either in tablet mode or on the Joy-Con grip, and then going to playing Mass Effect with an actual Xbox controller, I was like, oh yeah, so that controller isn't actually all that great. It's good enough for playing Zelda, but you can tell that the other controllers are a lot more comfortable.
The Pro controller should be just with that thing because the Pro controller is great. I really like the Pro controller.
I didn't splurge for the Pro controller. I've been all Joy-Con, and it's like I said, it works fine. Like I've been happy with it. I'm not saying it's bad or like I haven't been struggling with the controls or anything like that. It's just like you can tell the difference when you go back to a PlayStation or an Xbox controller, just because there's a comfort level, like just the contour of how it fits in your hands. And I think it might just be a size thing, just because they are like maybe they just made that Joy-Con grip like just like an inch wider or something like that. Maybe it would fit better. I don't know. So
did you do any of the like just sitting there and just kind of like vegging out and just letting the two apart from the controller thing and just like sitting there just like a lazy jackass, just like laying on your couch with both controllers in each hand?
Yeah,
it's kind of great, but I'm kind of terrified of it because I think if I start going to that way, I'm never gonna go back.
Well, my kids are absolutely love watching me play Zelda, just because they can just sit on my lap and go, yeah, go to that. What's that over there? Go up there. And so then we're just like, yeah, sure, let's go check that out or whatever. And so that's how I've played a decent bit of Zelda, is just kids on my laps, my hands stretched out on the couch and just like nowhere near each other, just doing dual Joy-Cons. And that actually, it does work well. It's I think I mentioned the last time, it's not good for like the motion aiming, which I do really like the motion aiming in general. That makes it kind of impossible to use the motion aiming, but other than that, I find it works quite well. So yeah, that's the Nintendo Switch and Zelda. I don't know if you should go buy one, but it's real good.
I think like if you're just interested in Zelda, I think like from all of the sounds of it, it sounds like it's fine on the Wii U. Or I mean, look, if you don't even want to go out and do that. There are certain emulators that are going to be coming out very soon. That if you were, I could never encourage this, but if say you wanted to play a more stable frame rated version of Zelda that would maybe work better with it, those will be coming soon. So
it actually sounds like the Wii U version has better load times, because that's what that's what the speedrunners are using. They're using the Wii U version to do it, not the Switch version. And I think that has something to do with the load times. And the video I was watching of that, like some of that crazy speed run, like it seemed like the load times were going faster. And I'm like, I don't feel like my game loads that fast when I play that. So that's might be a dumb, weird thing. Probably like an asset, like they've dumbed down like the textures and stuff like that, so it ends up loading faster or something.
Yeah, it does take a bit longer to load on the Wii U every time you die. Sorry, I don't know if that's what you're talking about. I just got back, but
yeah. I mean, what I would say to that, Gus, is just get good. I mean,
man, a game's freaking hard.
Game's hard. The game is definitely difficult.
You broke your sword. Like, Jesus, how do I get another sword with all this inventory?
A lot of
eventually,
that's how you don't die. Is you do a lot of cooking.
Eventually, also you will have more weapons than you know what to do with. Like, you will eventually hit the point where you're like, I have to not pick something up here, and everything that I have has like elemental damage. Like, you eventually do hit a point where it's like, okay, I have the weapons to deal with this. It just takes a while. Like, it does take a pretty serious investment of like, I'm going to do a whole bunch of these shrines.
Crazy. That's the thing that's crazy about the fact that there's 900 Korok seeds in that game, because I feel like the point where I'm at, where like I said, I have like 70 Korok seeds, like I feel like I have enough inventory. I don't need any more inventory for anything else. So like, how huge does your inventory get, or do the requirements just get like exponentially higher and higher every time? Like,
so to max out your inventory, you only need to have around 400 of those Korok seeds.
Sheesh. Still though.
So the rest of them are all there just for fucking collectathon, like people who are crazy. But also it's the fact that they're like, hey, this world is so large, we need to have something available so that every time you are in an area, there's something to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and damn it, those little Koroks are cool. Like, they're cute, and they pop up and they make cool noises. I like them.
They're great. The guy, the Maraca guy, he's great.
Hestu is amazing.
He's incredible. He's great. Have you talked to him without clothes on?
No.
I know that is an oddly specific question, but you really should. Because it's incredible. His kind of reaction to it is maybe one of my favorite things I've ever seen. I don't know. Yeah, like, Hestu is great. And then it turns out that's all shit.
Yeah.
It's all Korok shit.
That's all it is. That's what you get. Spoiler.
Yep.
I guess.
Well, I mean, like, if you actually read the descriptions for the individual seeds, that says, like, it has a distinct odor to it. So, basically, these Koroks are just gifting you their shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's funny that the so this is, I mean, minor spoiler, whatever. No one's going to get this. One crazy guy. But, like, the reward for collecting all 900 is literally just shit. Like, it's just, you just get a little turd.
A giant one, yeah.
Is it giant? I don't know.
Like, specifically it's a multi-layered, like it's got a swirl to it, you know.
Yeah, it's got a swirl to it. Yeah, for sure. That's just funny. So, all right, we need to stop talking about Zelda. We can talk about Zelda all day. Adam, I want to hear about Nier and the second part of that title.
The second word, Automata, because everybody says it wrong. Because automaton is a word.
Why can't it be automata? Why can't it be automata?
Because the word is not automaton, it's automaton. And it's a game about robot people. It's a game about robot people with weird... It's man, this game's fucking weird. Okay, so I never played the original Nier, but from everything I've heard, like, that game seems really crazy and maybe not good, but like super experimental, where there are like parts of it where it's like it just becomes Resident Evil, where like you have this mansion which is basically a replica of the Spencer Mansion. There's like a whole text adventure part in that game. But also, from everything I've heard, it sounds like it doesn't necessarily play great either. So, like, it always was a thing that I was kind of interested in, but the fact that it didn't sound like it played very well, like, really, really made me go, I don't really want to spend that much time with it, especially because there are something like 4 different endings to that game, and like finishing up one ending is kind of only the beginning. So I figured that a game with 26 different endings, like Nier Automata, yeah, and some of them are like, you die in a specific way and it gives you an ending. So some of them are like that, but there are plenty that are like fully like this is like a different ending, and yeah, so. Stop me if you've heard this one. So in a few thousand years, the world is attacked by aliens. They create robots who basically destroy most of the human population. Human population moves to the moon, and they start building androids who wear gothic Lolita outfits, and the androids fight the robots. And they have to not question their humanity, but they're also alive enough that they can question their being. And
another one of those.
right. That old chestnut. That old story. So yeah, it's super weird. So this game is made by the same guy who made the original game. He directed it, but Platinum actually made the game this time. It sounds like Square basically said, hey, you can have another chance at this because he's been pretty out there and saying that he wants to do another one of these games. But the compromise was, okay, you can make another one of them, but it has to be a good game. Like, it can be this crazy experimental thing, but it has to be good. So basically they have what amounts to a... Sorry, hold on a second. They have what amounts to a kind of, I would say, like Bayonetta-esque style combat system, which, I mean, is Platinum's bread and butter. And there is a whole, like, weapon crafting system that is super weird and super complicated. I actually really love the way that this game handles stuff. So as a robot, you have kind of like access to your memory that sort of looks like... The way I compare it is like to what it looks like when you used to defrag hard drives. So that kind of like, here's this chunk of data, and it takes up this little bar percentage of it, and all these other things. And there are things in there that are kind of like basic vital components. Like, if you didn't want to have the ability to like have a mini map, you could remove that, so you have a little bit more space to add in other abilities. Like, I want to have extra health, or I want to have a slightly faster dodge. And it's actually like it allows for these like really weird combinations of abilities. So like my character basically has like electric weapons, and every hit is like regenerating some amount of health. And even when they're not being hit, they're regenerating health, and kind of just allows you to go buck wild with how you control, like how you change your character up. It's really, really deep creation tools on your character. It's really good. I've only played like 10 hours of it. This game is an open world game, and I say that because it seems like this game, I talked a little bit about the ending stuff before. It does seem like you have to invest a lot of time, and you have to play through it multiple times. So in the original Nier, for example, after you beat the game the first time, you could translate what the enemies were saying. So it kind of changed up your entire encounters, that rather than necessarily you fighting enemies, you were like reading them and being like, hey, these people are being attacked and they're attacking us, and why are we doing this? So like endings were kind of always a Sorry. Endings were always a thing that was the ending. You get something new. It kind of changes up how you view the game. I'm like 10 hours into this, and I feel like I've just scratched the surface. And there are these multiple endings to it. So it does seem like there is going to be a lot of replaying, going through the game a third time, a fourth time. Like I've heard people say like the 26 endings because there's a different ending for each letter of the alphabet.
Jesus.
Yeah. So like
Jesus.
the prospect of like playing through this game, it seems like it's really important. The style change stuff that I talked about a little bit before, like the game opens up and it's a bullet hell shmup. And then they kind of changed like it from being like a top down one to a side scroller one. There's like a weird hacking mini game that occurs like sometimes just in the middle of combat. There's all of these weird little changes that they do throughout that kind of like keep it interesting. So like some points it'll be a hack and slash like Bayonetta, or other times it'll be like a 2D side scroller. Like there's all of these little changes, and it's really well made. I feel like by not playing through the original Nier, granted, I watched Super Bunny Hop did a video retrospective on it. I feel like by not seeing that game, I don't feel like I necessarily missed anything with the story. I don't know if that's the case, because like I said, I'm only 10 hours or so into it. Maybe it's entirely fucking different by the end. I don't know. It's really cool. Yeah, I don't. It's such a weird kind of game, and especially like the guy who directs it has always kind of seemed like he's a very eccentric guy. Like he's the guy who was at the Microsoft pressers. Oh no, it wasn't Microsoft. It was like I think it was Konami years ago with the big moon head thing that he had. And he just like goes crazy in all of his videos, and he seems like a really interesting dude who kind of wants to do things very differently with his games. Like he often talks about how he thinks that it's kind of lazy that games just use violence like as a way to express what the player is doing. Like you just kill, and it seems like that's something that he's kind of interested in pursuing, and it does seem like that's part of the themes of this game, where there are these areas that you get to, these big elaborate areas that are like the robots who you're supposed to be fighting. They're not necessarily fighting you, so do you just go in and start slashing the hell out of them, or do you keep them alive and discover like, hey, there's a whole society here that is like rebelling against these alien these alien creators or things like that. It's super weird, but I really like it. I want to get back to it. There's a lot. I mean, there's stuff I'm reviewing right now that kind of is preventing that, but I definitely want to get back to it, and I want to finish it up. I posted something on my Twitter like last weekend. The Romeo and Juliet scene in that game is straight up going to be in the list of things that I'm like, we have to talk about this at end game of the year stuff, because it's one of the fucking funniest things I've ever seen in a video game ever. Because it just comes out of nowhere, and it's something that I'm not clever enough to do something like what that scene has going on in it.
You don't do enough drugs.
Yeah, no, I don't. I straight up don't. I don't, but like it feels like it almost feels like Asimov on crack, you know, like it's that kind of like it's just dealing with these big heady concepts of sci-fi while at the same point being kind of crazy. It's developed by Platinum, so it's also a really good game.
Do you think that you'll try to get as many endings of it as you can, or it all depends on the first ending that you get?
It depends on, I think, my first ending. I know Alex Navarro from Giant Bomb said like, hey, I got that first ending and I'm totally gonna get all of them.
Jesus.
As a result of it. So maybe this is the thing that I chip away at throughout the entire year. Like, I just finished up my chip away game with Yakuza, so maybe I add another one to it.
Yeah, well, as long as like that's cool, as long as those playthroughs evolve every time you're doing it, and that's what it sounds like from kind of like the osmosis I'm getting from the internet. It sounds like that's kind of what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
you're learning and things are changing enough that going through again is worthwhile. Kind of like you were talking about like, the thing from the first Nier about like the translating the enemies. Like, if it's doing stuff like that and changing up the way that game is experienced, then it's sure you're technically playing the game over again, but you're getting a different thing out of it. That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, there are things in the trailer that straight up make me go like, oh, that's gonna be the big component of these multiple endings. It seems like is highly dependent on this one thing that I haven't experienced in the game yet. It seems like that's going to define like, hey, how these multiple endings come about is how you deal with these things throughout the game. So I mean, like it almost feels to me like I almost wonder if it's like the difference between like like a genocide and a pacifist run of Undertale, where those two experiences are vastly different. The two different ways that you play that game are so completely different that they each have their own merit to just playing through them in that style. So I definitely want to keep chipping away at it. I know for a fact it's going to take me forever to get through it. I've come to grips with that. But as long as they keep doing stuff that's really interesting with it, and again, it's platinum, so I would expect them to. I'm totally down for trying to go through more of them.
This is another PlayStation exclusive, right?
PlayStation killing it this year with their exclusives.
Yeah.
Like
what they had, Yakuza,
Horizon Zero Dawn,
Horizon.
Yakuza. They've got Persona in a couple weeks, which I'm pretty sure that's going to be an okay game. Feel pretty confident. I feel pretty confident on that. I can't actually say one way or another. I know that review. So here's the crazy thing about that. Kind of mad I didn't know this. Review copies for that game have been out since February. And I only just learned about that very, very recently. It's like, oh man, if I would have known that, like I would have been like, hey, January, let's fucking get a hold of them. But you don't think about that with a game like that. It's like, oh, maybe we'll be able to get it 2 weeks beforehand, not fucking 2 months beforehand.
Yeah, it was kind of too late by the time I looked into it.
Exactly. So I was like, fuck it, we could try, but I don't think it's gonna happen.
Yeah.
But I'm totally impressed with like what Sony has put out this year. Like I think they've done a really solid job of the start of this year just keeping things coming. I know they've got their play titles right now going on.
Oh yeah.
Which like next week is like I think like next week or the week after is like Parappa's remake. So like yeah, and then like the Crash thing is pretty soon. They've got a lot of games coming out this start of year.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of good games out there right now. I haven't touched Horizon since before Zelda came out, and I feel bad about that. But I will get back to it at some point.
That's gonna be my summer game.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of depends on how Mass Effect goes. Like, so that's the main reason that I didn't go right back to Horizon after kind of hitting my, not my end point, but like kind of, I'm getting kind of done with Zelda, I'll mess around with it here and there, is that Mass Effect came out. But so I'm kind of like you were kind of saying, Adam, I'm working on other things for review and still finish up Zelda and whatnot. So I haven't got a ton of chance to mess with Mass Effect. I'm probably only 3 hours, maybe 4 hours in for the main campaign. I don't know so far. Like, it seems good. Like, it seems like the story is in an interesting place and there's interesting thing going on. The whole animation thing, and it's been pretty like overblown and everything like that on the internet. Like, it doesn't bug me too much, but there's definitely something weird going on with the eyes in this game.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like all over the place. Like, you'll be in conversations and people will be doing like the shifty eyes, like looking at you and then looking to the side and looking at you and then looking to the side. Like, and I see that like all the time, and like eyes are really wide. Like, I'm hearing things like I was talking about Eddie, like he's telling me his character is like constantly dilated pupils, which is super weird. Like,
That's
like there's something weird with like, yeah, the lip sync is a little bit off, whatever. There's so many games where the lip sync is bad that at this point I kind of just go whatever. Like it's frustrating, but it makes the games that get it, that nail it, just stand out all the more when they really nail that lip syncing.
I mean, like Horizon, Horizon wasn't good with its lip syncing stuff either. So
right, yeah, exactly. I mean, and like we talk about Zelda, like I don't think Zelda's got great lip syncing in it either.
No, it absolutely doesn't. But I mean, like also that game was designed for primarily a Japanese audience. So I mean, like,
right,
I'm sure
yeah,
there's
so
some
maybe
there's a little bit of difference there, but still.
Right, so I'm saying, like, so, like, I'm not, like, a lot of people are freaking out because, Mass Effect, whatever. Like, yeah, their lip syncing, I think, was pretty good in the original Mass Effect trilogy. And it's definitely not good here. But that's also something that could be patched and fixed, maybe, eventually. Who knows? I think from a base level, I think the combat still feels really good. I'm liking it. Like, I think Mass Effect is a game that you have to play with the powers. You can't just play as a shooter.
Right.
No.
Because it's not that good of a shooter. It's not a Gears of War
no, it's
cover-based shooter. Like, you're supposed to be throwing your biotics around or doing incineration or whatever that is, because that's where it's the most fun. I don't know. I guess I don't know how. I know you are playing it or have played it. What are you thinking?
Yeah, last I checked, I was like 32 hours in. I'm at that point where I can do the final mission if I want to, but I'm just trying to level up and get my character to 40, just trying to round up all the side missions. Yeah, I mean, I really like it. Like, it's not my favorite Mass Effect game. Like, 2 will still hold that place for me, but it's doing a good enough job as far. The story is pretty, I don't know. I want to say it's kind of typical for these types of games. Nothing special. But it gets the job done. Do
you think it's typical for these kinds of games, or do you think it's typical for Mass Effect?
I think it's typical
because
for
I think okay.
Because
we'll talk about it a little bit more, but I didn't get that feeling.
Really?
I got kind of a we kind of threw this, and granted, I only played a couple hours.
Okay, yeah. It ramps up after the first few hours. Yeah, it gets going.
So, I mean, it's kind of like they're kind of doing, like, there's a lot of similarities, right? Like, you're doing stuff like the very beginning, which about all of I've played is like hitting a lot of the same notes of Mass Effect. It's like, hey, there's this thing. It's not the Citadel, but it's basically the Citadel. We're just going to call it the Nexus. And like, you get a ship, and then that ship like is cooler on the inside than the Normandy, but like it looks like the Normandy. And like, you are this one special person who has like special powers, and everyone is relying on. Kind of like when you were the Spectre and you had all these special powers, and everyone was
you're the Spectre. I mean, Pathfinder,
right? So they're hitting those same types of beats as the original Mass Effect. I mean.
It's very much Dragon Age Inquisition. It's very much you're the Inquisitor, but in a Mass Effect universe.
Yeah. Because, I mean, the thing that's interesting to me, and like I said, I'm nowhere near into it, but, like, this idea of, like, this mystery of, like, hey, so, like, we're supposed to, like, these worlds are supposed to be great, and these worlds end up apparently sucking, and what's up with that? Like, that is an interesting premise, and I'm interested in what's going on with that. I will say that none of the characters at the point that I've played have really jumped out as super interesting to me. Yeah, and that's the biggest complaint I've heard of it, is that there's not that many characters that really stand out as cool. So I mean, like I said, I'll figure that out as I get further into it. But I think the actual story is at least intriguing to me of what exactly is going on in this world, 600 years away from the original Mass Effect or Mass Effect 2 or whatever, in a completely different galaxy.
I have two big complaints about this game. Like, and animation is not one of them for me. I know it's not as great as everyone hoped, but it doesn't really take me out of the game. There's like one character that looks really bad, and it doesn't help that the voice acting is really bad too. And that's the one that everybody was sharing that you meet like pretty early on. But besides,
the commander lady.
Yeah.
She looks real bad.
She looks real bad. That's like the most like obvious. But besides that, the two main things I don't really like about this game is, like you said, the crew, like your teammates. There's only 6, which is I think the same thing that was in Mass Effect 1, but none of these are.
Yeah, that sounds right. There were 6 in Mass Effect 1. Yeah.
Yeah, but none of these are very memorable, with the exception of maybe PB. She's pretty cool. She has some funny lines, but everybody else is pretty. Like
that was the red haired chick you're trying to get with, right?
No, that's actually Suvi. That's the.
No, okay.
PB is the Asari that you pick up.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I saw that. I mean, I saw that video that you put up, and I was like, oh, that's a little bit odd. Okay.
Yeah, but besides that, like my main gripe with the game is the quest log and everything as far as UI is such a mess. It's like layer upon layer upon layer to find what quest you're on, and sometimes it's divided by the planet that you need to go to. Sometimes it's divided by like the people you need to talk to. So that stuff is like super confusing. That's like my biggest gripe with the game. I mean, I got used to it. It's not like the worst thing ever, but in a game like this, it kind of is a hassle to have to be going through multiple menus just to see what you should do next.
And it sounds like there's tons and tons of side quests like in Dragon Age Inquisition. And that is worrying to me because I could not get into Dragon Age Inquisition at all. Yeah. Tried twice and it just could not. It was just, I don't know. I couldn't land in that game. And like from the opening like hour or two of this game, I was like, man, running around this alien planet sure feels a lot like Dragon Age Inquisition, and that's kind of scary. Like it doesn't feel like as crazy open as some of the areas in Dragon Age Inquisition was, but like you're still like they're doing the things, and I like this, like where it's like, hey, there's like this side quest and there's like little bits and pieces to kind of run into and explore in the world on a much lesser level than something like Zelda. But like there's like little things like that in there, and that's
see, you're gonna get to a point where you have to start establishing planets, and then that's when the map is gonna open up like huge, and you're gonna have to be going through the entire planet, like clearing pockets of enemies, like establishing like little mini outposts, just like Dragon Age, where every little thing you do kind of brings up the viability of the planet up to a certain point. And then once you get it to a certain point, then you can put an outpost there, and then I'll ask you, okay, do you want this to be a science planet or like a military planet? Like which cryopods are we going to open? So when they started getting to that point, that's where I was like, okay, this is cool. Because at that point, it started being more Mass Effect to me. It started being more about the exploration, about the settling. I started feeling like the Mass Effect 1 vibes, where I started to feel like it's the same universe, but it's different planets, and it's in the shape, like you're basically shaping the history. So that's where I started getting more into the story. So hopefully when you get
that
to
sounds
point,
cool. Like making decisions, making numbers go up, and as you're completing things, like that all sounds super cool. I'm definitely interested in that. Yeah, I got to spend a whole lot more time in this game. I tend to do multiple playthroughs of Mass Effect games if I enjoy them, and so I haven't even touched the surface of this game. On a single player front. I will say that I did get together with some friends 2 nights this week and played some multiplayer, because I was a huge fan of the Mass Effect 3 co-op. Played dozens of hours of it. Like, it was so much fun. And so I was really excited for the prospect of playing more co-op multiplayer. And in general, it's the same kind of basic thing as Mass Effect 3. It's 4 players. You each have different characters and different classes. You have to like open loot boxes, and that gives you different weapons, and that gives you different character classes that you can unlock, and you can level those classes up individually as you do missions and stuff like that. And again, like I said, the combat's really good, and it puts you in these arenas with the various different factions that you run into the game, which is kind of funny to play the multiplayer because I haven't even run into two of these factions that I'm fighting against. So I don't know what they are, what's going on there, but I'll get to that eventually. I will say though, from like kind of our opening, like what we played probably somewhere between 4 and 6 hours of it over the course of 2 nights. It's brutal. Like the multiplayer is hard. Like going in with like level 1 characters and nothing unlocked or whatever, like we couldn't even beat the easiest missions, which are bronze level missions, at all. Like I think by the time that we finished with our, by the second night, I think we had completed a mission twice, like which is you actually complete all the waves and then you extract. And the second time, all of us made it out. The first time, only I made it out. It's hard. It's hard, and it seems like the rewards are coming slower than they did in Mass Effect 3. So it feels like if that's something that they want to be viable, like Mass Effect 3, they actually supported that multiplayer a lot. Like they did tons of free updates, like months and months down the line for that game. So if they want this to be viable, they might need to kind of tweak some stuff, mess with the rewards, mess with like the prices of their like gold and advanced loot boxes and stuff like that.
I do like how the multiplayer works as far as the single player goes. I'm assuming you haven't gotten to that part either.
Yeah, no, the Apex missions and stuff like that. No, it's definitely it's definitely interesting. It's a little confusing as far as what that actually does, because like the Apex missions they're kind of like they mess with the modifiers in the game. So like the first Apex mission that was out there, like you can choose to just send your normal strike team. So Mass Effect has this entire like offline timer based thing that you can download the app on your phone and you can send your strike teams on missions and they will get you in game like items and currency and stuff like that. I equated it to like Black Flag. I want to say is the one who had like the app where you could like send your ships to do these different routes and stuff like that. So it's kind of like that. But then you can also say, like, I'm going to do this, like these Apex missions are like these special ones that give you special rewards. And you can either send your strike team to do it, or you can just say, hey, I'm going to play this in multiplayer. And you will go and either join in either with some friends or just do a matchmaking and play that in multiplayer. The thing that was weird is that it didn't sound like it. Like I assumed like doing all that and going through and playing the multiplayer version of that meant that you would get the single player rewards and like something cool for doing it in multiplayer. And it didn't really, like, you got an experience boost for doing that mission. Like it was like 100% experience boost. You got more experience. But other than that, like you didn't get any like special items or extra currency or anything like that. That was noticeable. And just like everything else, like I was talking about, because we are all so low level and don't have things and stuff like that unlocked, it was super hard. Like we tried to finish that mission. We guessed it. Maybe we got it on like our 8th try of beating that mission.
Damn.
And the whole time you're playing it, even if you fail, you're getting experience and you're getting currency and stuff like that. So it's not like it was time lost or anything like that, but it was it's definitely difficult. But it's fun. Like I like the way that the game plays. And it's the type of thing that like maybe it's a little too grindy to like really get up to those top levels and get all the good gear and stuff like that. Or maybe they just really want you to spend actual money on it. I just like I never felt I mean, like I said, it's the same thing as Mass Effect 3, but I felt like with Mass Effect 3, the rewards were coming more often, and this one, they feel like the rewards are a little bit farther spread out. And so that just means like you can play an entire night, buy like a loot box or two, and maybe you don't get any weapons. That's what happened to me the second night we played. Like I unlocked a couple new classes, and that's cool. Now I can get to try out like a Krogan Vanguard and a Sari Sentinel. Like it's cool stuff. But like I didn't get any new weapons, so it's like I need weapons because the weapons are the thing that between all characters. So it's like,
right. Were the like I'm sorry, I barely played that multiplayer for 3. Were these like with the multiplayer, like were the microtransactions like the same thing, or were they different? Because I know there's the microtransactions in this one.
No, I think they were the same thing. I want to say.
Yeah.
I want to say Mass Effect 3, you just bought, like, you just paid cash for the loot boxes. In this one, they have like just a currency, like so you can buy a premium currency and then use that currency for its own special exchange rate to buy the boxes. So like, I mean, the same basic idea. I never felt the desire to buy loot boxes in Mass Effect 3, and I'm very unlikely to buy loot boxes in this game. But it was just, I guess I was a little disappointed that they made this big thing about this. Hey, there's these like strike missions. Like they basically built in an excuse for what the multiplayer is into the actual lore of Andromeda, because it's like right off the bat when you get to the Nexus, they're talking about, hey, yeah, so like we're gonna have you send these strike teams out on missions to get supplies and rescue people and stuff like that, and then that is basically the multiplayer missions that you're doing is those strike teams that Ryder is sending out. And so, so that's cool that they have like an actual in-game canon way to explain what you're doing. But it's just weird that the rewards for like doing those missions that like cross between single player and multiplayer they seem to still just favor the single player and not really give you that much benefit for the multiplayer. Just weird. Like I expected like, hey, you did this mission, which is like this limited time, like you can only do it once to get like the extra experience. So like you think they would just give you a loot box for doing that in like one mission. So like, yeah, like they refresh those like every couple of days or something like that. So I figured like they would be some type of special thing for like do the primary mission that has these cool modifiers on it. Like the one that was going on was you did 100% extra melee damage, and then the powers and weapons were taken down by 25%. So basically you're running around punching everything. And that was cool. That was fun. I was playing a Krogan, so I was headbutting everything, and it was great. But like, if the rewards aren't giving you much different than if you're just playing the game normally, then like what's the point of even doing that? So,
yeah, I find myself just sending them out. Like most of the time I don't even mess with it. I just send out the team automatically, and I'll just wait the 90 minutes and just get my XP.
Yeah, because it seems like, it's like as far as like the single player goes, it seems like you get the same rewards whether you just send them out and have the computer guys do it, or you go and actually do it yourself. Seems like you get the same rewards. So it's like, I don't know why they're making this emphasis of like, because every time you do it, if you do it in game, it's like, ooh, do you want to send a team, or do you want to do this in multiplayer? And it's like, I'm gonna just send a team, I guess, because it doesn't seem like the multiplayer is that like doing that multiplayer. Like I could just go in and just do standard matchmaking for a multiplayer match. I don't need to go do this special mission to get like extra rewards, because it don't seem like the rewards are there. It's fun. Like it's something that I will keep checking out from time to time. But I think it needs a little bit of work, or maybe it'll just, if you grind your way up to having higher levels and better gear, maybe it will not be as hard, and then you will be more successful and you will get more currency, and then you can, maybe it's a catch-22 type of thing, where you have to have the levels to get the gear, but you can't, so you just have to grind out that beginning early stuff. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just go back and play Mass Effect 3 multiplayer, because that was really good. It's still out there. I can still play that right now, so I can just do that instead.
So what class do you play as?
Well, so that's the cool thing about this game, right? I haven't gotten super deep into it, but in general, I play as Biotics because I think that's the most interesting to play in Mass Effect. But there's the thing where you can do like jack of all trades like build if you want to, and then you can switch on the fly. So I'm going to try that at least at the beginning. I'm going to try doing a split like tech and Biotics, and kind of have in theory like 3 different classes that I can switch in between, and just kind of see how that works. I'm going to try to use the Pathfinder ability to the best of the abilities and see how that works. I don't know. It sounds like it might still be more beneficial to just like min-max your one class and just put everything towards the ones that you like. I'm going to mess around with this and see how it is.
See, that's what I'm doing. I'm basically an engineer because all my powers are tech, but then I'm also putting points into the soldiers' like passive abilities.
Sure,
So that would give me extra consumables and extra guns to holster. So technically, I'm an infiltrator.
And then they do the cool thing where, like, if you switch the classes, even if you want to keep the powers the same, you get a bonus based off of what that class is. So, like, if you switch to the biotic class, you're getting boosts to like your biotic powers and stuff like that. Where if you switch it to a different class, you'll get different bonuses and different boosts based on being a sentinel or being a soldier or whatever. So like you do have to put points into those classes to be able to unlock them, to be able to use them. But that seems like it could be kind of an interesting thing. Like, I mean, look at during that opening sequence where the where the actual Pathfinder is switching between all the classes and is just in there just being a total badass. I was like, I want to do that. Like, that looks cool. Like, I'm going to be like, I'm going to have all these different classes unlocked, and I'm going to just be like, Sam, switch to engineer, and just boom, just incinerate and cryo people. Like, it just seems cool. Like, maybe you have to do like a ton, like an ass load of side missions and stuff like that to be able to level up your guy to be able to have all that stuff. But it seems really cool. Like, I want to do that. I want to be badass, just like Ryder, just Alec Ryder was badass.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, the freedom that they give you is pretty awesome, and the combat is significantly better too. But the only bad thing about the combat is you can't individually tell your teammates like what power to use. Unless I'm like a total idiot.
You can't pause it anymore to like line up specific like combos and stuff like that, like you could in the previous Mass Effect games. That's weird. Like, it's a weird omission.
Yeah, it's weird. You kind of have to wait for them to. It's kind of reversed now. Like, you have to wait for them to do their power first, and then you combo off them. And in the old days, I would do it the reverse. But yeah, I mean, you kind of get the hang of it. But that's the only thing about the combat that would be like, that's the only change that I'm not totally down with.
It's like they sacrifice the ability to tell your teammates what to do, so that you could like tell them where to stand in like. It's like, no, that's an awful like. I don't generally care where they stand. I would rather tell them like, hey, do singularity right now, and then I will immediately follow that up with a combo, and we're gonna destroy this guy. Like, that seems much more interesting than like, go defend over there.
It's weird that they sacrifice 2 buttons for your jump jets, like one to jump up and hover, and then one to dodge. Yeah. So by using those 2 buttons, they kind of took away the ability to assign other things. So that's kind of
weird. Yeah, because I mean, in like even in Mass Effect 3, I mean, like in the original Mass Effect, you could have like every ability and you could queue it up, and they were all on their own individual timers and stuff like that. But even in like Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, you still had like 6 or 7 different abilities that you could do. Yeah. Whether it was like put on like incendiary ammo, and you could have all these biotic. Like you could do a lot of stuff, and now they limited to just the 3. So I mean, that's weird. I mean, like, it's fine. Like, especially with the switching thing that you can do, like you can spec out different profiles and have them set for whatever you want, like whatever you want to do. Like, oh, do I need to have incinerate because this guy's got shields? Okay, well, I can switch to have incinerate so I can take down those shields better. Like, so they give you the ability to kind of have multiple things equipped, but you can still only have 3 at a time, which is a little weird.
Yeah, like they give you that favorites thing. So technically you can have 12. You can have 12, but you have to go through a couple button pushes to activate them. But I think on PC it's probably better for y'all because y'all could probably just hotkey that stuff. But for console,
probably, yeah. I don't know. I mean, when I tend to play games like this on PC, I tend to use a controller anyways. So,
okay.
Yeah, exactly. I use controller. I use my controller when I played the demo. Can't with the first 3 games though. Have to use the PC. Have to use the mouse and keyboard with that. Whole bunch of bullshit.
People tell you, I mean, this is a shooter, so it's probably better if you use mouse and keyboard because you're going to have better aim.
But it's not a good shooter.
That's the thing.
It's not like I'm going like, man, like the shooting in this is great. Like,
I was going to say, you're also not shooting human people. You're shooting computer AI, so what does it really matter? I mean,
after looking at some of those faces, I don't know if humans are shooting either. Oh!
Hey, so okay, just question for you because I feel like this is what it is, but I want to be sure. So like at the beginning of the game, you make your Ryder and then you make your twin. So do they like retroactively go and make your dad like a combination of what those 2 would look like? Is that
fuck no? They do not. No. Fuck no, they do not. Look at the character that I created.
I know the character you created, but I feel like. So I have EA access on Xbox, right? So I dabbled with a little bit early, and then I actually own it on PC because that's where I'm going to buy it, naturally. And so like I started it over again on PC, obviously, and I feel like what Alec Ryder looked like on my game on PC and what he looked like on Xbox was different, but maybe I'm just not remembering it right. I thought he looked different than I remember him looking. Maybe I need to go back.
I had the Insane Clown Posse, a clown fuck rider, and I had his Fugu Fish sister, and they were entirely different races, And if they did some weird amalgamation shit, I think I would have noticed. I hope to God I would have noticed, but he looked like a totally normal, disappointed father.
So insane. We'll need to Pixel Relay. We'll investigate and we'll get back to you on this. Because
Nice.
maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just crazy. I mean, look at like I gave both of my writers bright orange hair, and Daddy Writer didn't have bright orange hair. But I'm like, yeah, whatever. I mean, that's probably not real hair anyways. We probably just dyed it, so it would make sense, So I don't know. I don't know what happens with the twin yet. I'm not late enough in the game to have any idea what happens with that. So I'll get to that. I'm assuming they wouldn't have me make a twin if nothing happened with it. So yeah, no, it's all right. Yeah, don't say anything. I don't want to know.
To be fair, Ryder didn't seem to care too much about his sister. Clownfuck Ryder did not care too much about Sarah Ryder in my game. Oh my God, it's my sister. Okay, thank God for that.
So I did. Okay, so I played up to the point to the Nexus, and then like I got my ship. I went down to the first planet, right? But before you actually go to your ship, like someone says, like in passing, like, oh, you have to go back to the Hyperion, and you need to check in with Sam. And they're like, oh, you should probably check in with your brother as well. I completely forgot to go check in on my brother, and I felt bad. I was like, oh, like now I'm in my ship, now I'm down to the planet. I was like, oh, I never checked in on my brother. Like, I feel like I'm a bad sister right now. It's bad.
I did, and they're like, yeah, I did that, and they're like, yeah, she's still in a coma.
I mean, I figured nothing would actually happen, but I did. Like, I had like a little twinge of like, man, I'm just bad right now. Probably should have checked in on him. That's not good.
See,
what about my business?
I totally forgot to check on my brother too, and then there's a point where they bring that up, and I'm like, fuck.
Oh no!
It doesn't seem like anything big, but they did at least acknowledge it. So I was like, I'm a shit.
Don't rub that in my face. Like, yeah, notice you never came and checked on him. It's like, damn it, I don't want to hear that. All right. So yeah, so Mass Effect. I mean, we'll report as we played more Mass Effect. I feel like what I've played from it, I feel like the hate seems overblown.
It is.
Like I can get past like dumb thents like, yeah, the animation's a little weird, maybe the eyes are a little crazy from time to time. I actually think that the character that I made on PC animates and looks better than the default character, which is what I messed around with when I just did the EA Access trial. So like maybe that's just a problem. Maybe don't go with the default character. Try to make something that looks less crazy.
I went with the default Sarah Ryder. I really like the way that character was. But,
I feel like with the little time I played with her, she seemed like to really highlight the weird like eye stuff that was going on, and I'm not getting that from my character nearly as much.
Interesting.
That I made, but I don't know. I gave her smaller eyes. Maybe I'm just subconsciously trying to avoid that. I don't know. Yeah, we'll check back with Mass Effect Andromeda, but I feel like the hate's maybe a little overblown. It's definitely not like instantly catching me and like, oh my God, I have to play this game. This is amazing. Like with the other Mass Effect games. And it seems like, yeah, like I could definitely see it becoming kind of a side quest crazy thing like Dragon Age Inquisition. The advice I've heard is just to forget that the side quests exist and just go about your business. So if you can do that, just that's fine. Maybe that's all I'll need to do. And maybe if I did that with Dragon Age, I could finish that game as well. Because I want to like Dragon Age, just couldn't.
It'll be interesting to see if it puts its hooks in you like it did me. Just real quick, we have Eddie here in the chat room, and he seems to be enjoying it a lot as well. So take that for what it's worth.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, it's what I played from it. Like, it is enjoyable, and like the story is like interesting to me for sure, and the combat's there. But let's see.
Okay, so
I'll report back within 30 hours or so.
Yeah.
One last question for Gus.
Sure.
Without spoiling much, is there any more aliens that they introduce aside from the like 2 that I've seen? Like there was the guys that show up at the end of that first mission, and then I know there's been like promotional material with another race. Is that fucking it? Like, or is there more than that?
I believe that's it for now.
Oh,
no!
Without spoiling it, I think there's a reason for that. I think there's a reason for that.
Play in the multiplayer. There are 4 factions that you can fight in the multiplayer, if I remember right. one of them's robots, one of them is regular old humans, and then there are 2 different alien species, I think, that you fight in the multiplayer.
Yeah, they have the Ket
yeah.
and the Angaran, and you
the Angar, or maybe I don't know if you fight the Angaran, or maybe they're just unlockable characters that you can play as. I've definitely seen that in the multiplayer. I don't know if you fight them actually. I don't know. I haven't encountered them in the game. I don't know what's going on with them. They kind of look like Twi'leks a little bit. So yeah.
It feels very much like it feels very much like a new beginning. Like they say that they don't want to make a new trilogy, but I mean, this is the first in the trilogy. I think they're keeping it kind of small so they can introduce more stuff. The way the story's going. So.
I mean, so like, I'm kind of reminds me of Halo 4. So like Halo 4. So at the end of Halo 3, they did this big thing, right, where Chief was going into cryo sleep and he was like, "Wake me when you need me," and like. I remember being on a podcast and throwing all these crazy theories like, oh, like they could just wake up Chief like 600 years in the future and he could be like all these different aliens and like an entirely different galaxy and like do all this crazy stuff and just leave the Covenant and the Flood and all that stuff behind. And then Halo 4 comes along and they didn't do that at all. Like he wake up like 6 months later or something crazy like that, right?
Yeah,
yeah. And that's kind of what, like, even though this is a like time shift. Like but they brought all this stuff. They brought the Turians and they brought the Krogans and they brought the the Slayers. Like they brought all those people with them still. So it's still all the same Mass Effect-y type stuff. And I feel like they could have taken it as an opportunity to like, yeah, humans are going out and we are going to find all this new stuff. And it's all these new alien races. And what happens when we meet a new alien race and they don't just immediately start shooting at us, but we can't understand? Like there's things that they could have done in a galaxy that is so foreign, completely different environments that's not just floating rocks. And, like they could have done cool stuff, and it doesn't sound like they did. It sounds like they've kind of kept it like familiar and then kind of layered on some new type of things on top of that.
It feels like to me like the thinking that I've had with it is if they wanted to keep those characters, they could have very, very easily just done a prequel. Like they could have done that if they wanted to have these same characters and have like and still ignore the ending of Mass Effect 3, because that's the most important thing here, right? Is like we ignore that fucking ending completely.
From what I've played, yeah.
yeah, because like there's that thing in the character creator where it's like here's the shepherd's history. Was it a boy or was it a girl? And it's like, oh wow, you guys just don't even give a fuck.
So isn't that it's never really addressed in the game, but isn't this supposed to be like set like during the middle of the Mass Effect trilogy, like not even necessarily towards the end or where the Reapers were taking over?
They left after part 2, and then it took them 600 years to get to Andromeda.
Right.
So
yeah. Oh yeah. So like Shepard
is after.
Shepard is super dead.
Yeah,
like Shepard is dead a long time ago, and either the Reapers are destroyed, or everyone's happy robotics together, or they're enslaved, or like whatever. Like all that
something Star Child. Yeah. Like yeah.
But like. The whole point, I think, of this game is that they are completely disconnected from anything that was going on, to a point that maybe they don't even know what the Reapers are, because that hadn't even really been a thing. Because if not, they probably wouldn't have launched the ship with 20,000 or 100,000 people or whatever, 600 years. Like maybe they would have kept those people around to like, fight or build stuff or whatever.
Yeah.
So like I think that's cool, of way to kind of like try to separate it out, but then it doesn't sound like they really separated it all that much. So it's kind of just a way to like, to not have to deal with what the galaxy looks like after whatever happened at the end of Mass Effect 3. It feels
very safe. Like it feels like they don't want to go out of their comfort zone. So we put in the Asari, the Turians, we put them all back in there. But we have to do something a little bit different, and
people are going to be upset, though. I mean, I get that. People are going to be upset if you don't have Turians and Asari. Like, they're going to be upset. They're going to say, like, that's not my Mass Effect. Like, where is...
but then why set it in an entirely fucking different, galaxy is the thing. Like, why set it in this area where there's all of this other, like, potential that they could be changing shit up, like, really impactfully, And
because then
they don't, you know,
then
like
you're making the same type of story. Like you're making hey, we have to deal with rebuilding civilization after what happened in Mass Effect 3, and then you have to choose hey, this is what actually happened in Mass Effect 3, like this is the canon ending, or you have to do some type of crazy like save import from Xbox 360 and PS3 or
No, you don't.
I mean,
you have the same setup, but you introduce more alien races. You make the game where you're setting yourself in an alien galaxy be in a fucking alien galaxy. You know, like that's the thing. Like I don't think that it's safe to be like, we've got all these different races, they just kind of all showed up, and here are these two new ones, and we can't really talk with the one of them, they're just kind of shooting us. Like it feels incredibly safe, and I kind of think that if they wanted to play it safe, I think they could have done something a little bit different to make it so that they don't set the entire thing in this completely alien environment.
I mean, I agree to a point that it feels very much like The Force Awakens. Like it's kind of like a restart. So you do something so similar to the beginning. You change a couple things. You bring in familiar characters so that the next iteration you could fully make it your own thing. I get that vibe from this game. So I mean, I totally agree.
And it also makes sense if you're doing this giant thing where you are like, if you're just looking from a story perspective, where you are making a giant hub, something like the Nexus and all these ships or whatever, like the console races, like to go like super nerdy Mass Effect, like the console races are the ones that are represented here. Like,
yes.
So like it makes sense that each of those console races would send their own, their own pod of 100,000 people or whatever, and then establish their own console on this other Nexus, that Citadel type thing, with a Turian and a human and a Solarian and I guess the Krogans aren't on the console. That don't make sense. All right, whatever.
Nope, they're not.
The Krogans didn't get their own arc. Only the humans, Turians, Solarians, and Asari got their own arcs.
Okay.
Yeah. The Krogans are kind of still on the outside. There's some there, but they're very few in Andromeda. They're rare.
I would say it felt, just from a story perspective, it seemed weird that there was Krogans there. Like, I feel like that's like they just put Krogans there because, like, from a fan service point, I think they thought they had to have Krogans there. I don't think it makes sense for Krogans to actually be there to, like,
I think
so like these are like, this is like a mildly fertile Krogan, so we're gonna send her like super super far away from the rest of the Krogans. Like that just seems kind of bad, maybe kind of dumb.
Here's the super scientist Krogan. Like that was kind of weird,
Yeah, I think they try to justify like that they need some like military expertise, so they bring in like the badass Krogans. But yeah,
Adam, are you saying that Krogans can't be scientists? That's racist.
I'm saying, okay, really, here's what I'm saying. If you're gonna make a game where I can fuck all these aliens, I better see a Krogan dick. Okay, that's all I want.
You don't know where this game could go.
Yeah,
it might happen.
No spoilers.
Look, if I can't see Krogan dick, it's not worth buying.
I mean,
they've got a shell head like they do on their top head.
I was disappointed that you didn't get to see what Tally looked like underneath the suit in Mass Effect 3 when you finally got to romance her. Like that felt like a major cop out.
Come on now. Doesn't she give you a picture?
Yeah, but you can't really see anything. If I'm remembering right, you can't really see anything from it or something.
Oh, okay. I know. Yeah.
It's like I'm not trying to say I need to say naked ladies or anything like that. I'm just curious what they look like underneath all that stuff,
Yeah.
So all right, we're just rambling now. We should wrap this up. We've been on here for almost 2 hours, so not quite 2 hours, but yeah. So yeah, that's our show for this week. Thank you for listening. As always, our website is pixelrelated.net. If you would like to send us feedback, you can leave us a review on iTunes or the other various places that this podcast is available. Or you can always shoot us an email at feedback@pixelrelated.net. I am Kyle. That was Adam. That was Gus. And we will see you next
time. Do we want to plug the stuff we've got coming up? Because who knows when our next episode's going to be?
What?
Yeah, I think you guys should. You guys got some.
Yeah.
A decent lineup.
Yeah, because I mean, we've got stuff that's going to be coming out by the
Yes, we do.
probably by the next episode.
Yeah.
By June, there will be stuff.
We will have done some stuff by June, potentially, maybe.
By E3.
No
Probably
promises.
the next episode is the E3.
You say that. Don't say that.
Okay,
don't
well,
say
what?
that.
What did you say? Okay, so what? So all right. So what do we got coming up? I don't know how this whole embargo things works. Can I say what I'm playing, or am I not supposed to?
You can, as long as it says like you. Yeah, you can say it.
Okay. So I mean, I'm working on a review for Thimbleweed Park, the follow-up from Ron Gilbert as of Maniac Mansion fame. That'll be out this week. That's the main thing I'm working on right now.
Yeah. I am working on a review for what's like it's Oath of Silence. There's a name for it. I can't remember what. Faded. I wanted to say Force, but it's Faded. Faded, Oath of Silence. So that'll be out this week. And then the week after that, I will have a review out for Ukulele. So
Cool.
Yeah, so I mean we got stuff coming up.
And then,
which obviously we can't talk about.
Yeah.
So.
And I'll just say the last few episodes we've been live streaming these on YouTube. So I'm gonna try and do a better job of sending out a link if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter, so y'all can come hang out with us, ask us some questions during the show. Shout out
witness
to
the train crash live.
It's a hot garbage. It's a hot garbage show.
No.
Yeah, we have a couple people in the audience right now. Shout out to Shane and Denki-O. Thanks for stopping by. Hopefully we can do this more often.
Yeah. We just did this as a way to easily record it. If you want to come along and watch along, and we're always welcome.
God bless you. That's up to you.
More the merrier. All right.
Can't blame us for what happens.
All right. Later, guys. See you next time.
Later.